All right. Thank you all for arriving. And as we begin this morning, we look forward to a very much in-depth discussion of a subject which has been, I think, woefully untalked about. It's been lacking attention, even though it has affected all of us. It's affected those of us who are both male and female. It has affected our cultures, our societies, and is something we desperately all need to understand, expand our awareness of, and then try to be active in our families to curb this difficult problem. I'll spend just a moment after these basic introductions to introduce the subject. But my name is Russ Fox. I am on the board, I guess, chief advisor with the Global Advisory Committee for BMAN, or Boys Mentoring Advocacy Network. And it's my privilege to both mentor, but at other times, what I'm doing here is I'm helping Ola set up the international home base for BMAN by establishing a nonprofit and 501c3 organization here in the United States, which it will be BMAN International. So we're beginning to take steps, and it's all thanks and due to one incredibly brilliant and inspired gentleman by the name of Ola Akinwe. Without him, none of us would be here, and we so appreciate his uh, his guidance for today, but for what he has done ever since this got started. And I would also be remiss if I didn't also introduce, even though we don't see her yet, Omo, his beautiful bride, who is co-founder of B-Man. Ola, introduce yourself and let's begin, okay?
Uh, thank you, and I want to appreciate the moderator for his support for B-Man since we met. It's been like a father and son relationship, which is deep. I want to thank Uncle Mike. Is another father I have in the house. He's just like I'm on his wings. He just each time he's always there for us. I also want to thank Dr. Matthew Gonzalo. He's been on ground. He's been in our physical events here in Nigeria. And I remember when we launched the Father and Son Together initiative in 2019. He just newly arrived from the UK then, and he was available right on the live event. So for Dr. Rogers, I want to appreciate you and the work you do over there. Minister Nicholas, I welcome you. Dr. Cantata will be giving us another powerful message from Tanzania. We also welcome you. And going by BIMA, Boys Mentoring Advocacy Network, which is what brought us together and what is enlarging this vision, is an organization that I set up because one of my personal experience of not having to have a great mentor from my dad or other men in the community while I was growing up. In fact, to be honest with you, one thing I can recall while growing up is hatred, jealousy, resentment, revenge. I never had the opportunity to find a loving family where I can say, oh, this is who a father is, or this is what is happening. So when I research into why this happened, I can see trace that to the generation of my father and the generation of my grandfather. So it didn't start with me coming into that family of where you have a pattern of where there's no love, you have a pattern where there's jealousy, hatred, suspicion to say of. So that's kind of what the men look like in my home. So and it becomes so unhealthy for us and for the young men. And it's still regrettable today that this is still happening in my own generation, and the upcoming generation are still feeling that pattern. So I took a look into what is happening in my family? Why are there no loving father, nurturing fathers, healthy fathers that can support us to grow up in a loving environment? Could this situation be reversed? What could have led to my ancestors, my fathers, my grandfathers, to have passed on this kind of patterns of behavior, patterns of these unhealthy things, trying to in when cultivating us as young men. And I didn't stop that. I equally look at within the immediate community where I grew up. If I saw a similar pattern, almost similar. So I began to look at this from the point of if this has affected me. I know there are a lot of young men, older men, that this has also affected. So how do we address these patterns of unhealthy fathering and all of that? And that is what led us or led me to come up with this topic that I'm going to explore from different views from our panelists today. And it is my hope that at the end of this panel discussions, we will be able to have solutions that I personally can take from that can influence my immediate communities, my families, and my nation at large. For BMAN, we have several programs we run in our organizations. One of such is the Being a Man. You see that I'm wearing this shirt now. I think my fathers were part of this program. The Being a Man is a curriculum focused mentoring program from young boys between the age of 7 and 12 to 15. Then we have from 16 to 19, we have the Fast Festival, which is Father and Son Together event, where we bring out a much better relationship between father and sons, and we commemorate the passing from teenagehood to going to become a young man. We also have the Lara's Mothers Initiative, which deals with how we bring moms together, understanding how mothers can raise their sons. This is also a global summit that we run once in a year. We also have the literacy project, which is huge, where we have about 200 kids on, it's an after school programs on a weekly basis, 3 times a week, where we help them develop them to acquire the currency or empower them with the currency of the knowledge economy. We have the Soviet Right Initiative for young men and young girls. This is in partnership with girls as well, who want to develop their interest in mathematics so that they can have a career prospect in artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, and all of that. So we have different works we do to benefit our boys, but our flagship project is the Being a Man project, which is the adventure of this from boyhood to manhood and how we create a community of men to support them to become the man they would love to be. Having said that, I want to thank you for your time, your willingness to be part of this panel discussion. And I look forward to connecting with you afterwards and how to have demand in your home countries for those who want to have a program and how we can work together. That being said, thank you very much. And I will call on the moderator to continue this event as scheduled. God bless.
Thanks so much, Ogla. We appreciate your inspiration, your guidance, and providing this platform for us. Uh, Here's how we're going to be organizing today. Because there are 6 speakers, we have 6 topics. We are going to cover this in this manner. I'm going to be asking as we go from person to person. I'll ask the speakers to just take briefly, please, just like 30 seconds to say who you are, what country you're from, and basically your connection to the subject of fatherhood, boyhood, and why this is important to you personally. Just take that the briefest time, and then let's plan on a good 10 minutes for each of us to look at the subjects that we've been assigned. All right. So that said, let me give you just a little hint of where this meeting came from, because there is a history. As a matter of fact, 1 year ago, almost exactly, on February 19th of 2022, there was a panel discussion that was called The Father Wound, the Impact on Boys. And I think I'm going to read two little short excerpts from the introduction that was posted online a year ago about that. It says this: boys have a hole in their soul in the shape of their dad. And if a father is unwilling or unable to fill that role, it can leave a wound that is not easily healed. This is the father wound. This traumatic wound affects more boys than drugs and alcohol combined, and it leaves a wake of human destruction in its path, more devastating than any natural disaster. Reports reveal that boys who experience the father wound often become male adults who unknowingly wound their own children. If the father wound were classified as a disease, it would be a pandemic worthy of attention as a global emergency. I think what we're talking about here is we are all facing many global emergencies, but without boys who can mature into responsible, respectful, and productive men, then we do have an international problem. We have a human problem that must be addressed. We're going to first look at this problem from this perspective of what is it? Let's try to identify it. And for that, we're asking Dr. Matthew Consalo to really help us identify and define the unhealthy fathering flaws and patterns that we all not just see, but I probably guarantee that every male child that's tuned in right now, you have experienced this to one degree or another. We all probably have a father wound that needs healing. So let's kind of identify what that problem is. And Dr. Matthew Consalo, would you take it from here? Unmute yourself. And I know you're having difficulties with the video, but
yes,
feel free to share it with
try it again. There we are. That's me. Thank you very much, Ross. Can I go ahead now?
Yes,
can you see me, everybody?
Yes, we do.
Now, can you hear me? Yes, I'm sure you can. I'll be turning the sort of video on and off because it is distracting me as well. But let us start very quickly. Thank you very much, Ross. And just wanted to start by saying that I am Matthew Gonzalo, and I wrote a book, I think 2018, 2019, on men who suffer emotional abuse. And it's out there on Amazon. And I'm an educationist. I've done a lot of counseling to men and boys through education, different parts of their education, from primary to master's level. But that is what I do. I'm also an academic and an architect and a curator. So that is me. I've known Ola for going on to almost 7 years now, and we've worked on a number of projects, and we exchange ideas, and almost everything that is doing it lets me know when I have the time. I join and I add with concept. Thank you very much, Ola, for your great work that you're doing and tenacity in getting all this out there. Good. Now, let me start. May I ask, Ross, may I ask a favor? Could you kindly, yes, could you kindly just tell me when I have 5 minutes left?
I can do that.
So you just tell me, yes, please. So you just tell me 5 minutes left so I move on. Because this is such a huge topic, and we just have to consolidate. So we could go on for as long as it takes. Now, unhealthy fathering. and identifying and defining unhealthy fathering, the flaws and the patterns. Now, let me start with the flaws that we all see. And the flaws of what we call unhealthy fathering, which is also toxic fathering, usually relates to some form of, if we're looking, as you said, Ross, and the point of this, the perspective talk today, we're looking at the fatherhood and how that has affected sons. We look at identifying the flaws in fathering is looking at the masculinity, the heavy masculinity that comes in, which has come up from generations and has not been addressed. We have gone through this generational cycle. What do I mean by that? And that is spoiled by everything that we see. If we look at the media, if we look around us, if we look at certain books that we read, such bulking, strong man, and all that, and our films and everything that we're saying, and all this, you've got to be a man and everything. We're going to come to that at some point. And all that is associated with usually brutal force. And that, strength, physical, and the idea of removing emotions from all aspects of what it is to be a boy and a man. Now, if that comes from being a boy, you're going to get the fatherhood, because your father is saying that he has to make you tougher. He's not going to be able to hug you as much as he hugs your sisters if you have some. Or this usual thing that goes, I've noticed through cultures, this idea that a man has to be someone that carries the can on almost everything and should not show any emotions whatsoever. Now, when I say things like this, people come and say, oh, do you mean man should be crying all the time? When you say that they should be attached to their emotions and all that sort of thing. That is not what I mean. Of course, crying is human. But what I mean is that do not be what we do, what fathers tell us, or what father unconsciously sometimes teaches us through their fathering, is to remove emotions from us. Because that is the way they've been taught, and that is the way they've said that they're being providers and being strong for the family and things like that. So that goes on. There's nothing wrong with that. It is how it is done. So we have to go to the root cause of unhealthy fathering and parenting. So, and when we're talking about this, we have to find who creates unhealthy fathering? Where were the generational trends of fathering then from, let us say, the 17th century to now in the 21st century? What was fathering? What was that all about? And how do we look at that and see how we have changed and how we've developed through the years? How did that work out? What happened? These are the things that we cannot sort of answer just immediately like that, but it's something that we can reflect. And I am hoping that as we go through this, we're reflecting on this question while when we have the Q&A, and we'll have to be looking at the root cause, or we have to look at the perspective of looking at the root cause of unhealthy fathering and parenting. So who creates that? Is it a nurture or nature? How did this develop that it has gone down to about 3 to 4 generations? What was it like the other day? We have all these ideas that from Africa to Europe, America, the man was the hunter and he came in and the boys had to follow him into hunt and they have to be tough. They cannot be sitting down there being so-called weaklings, and the residues of all that cultural manifestation over the years has brought itself up to what we are confronting now, which is a complete breakdown, I could say, which is a complete breakdown in understanding how to be a father towards your son, and dare I say it, towards your daughter as well. Now, we're going to get into that as we go along. And was it being a healthy father, was it easier 200 years ago as opposed to now? Is it easier? Is it more difficult now with all that we have at our disposal? Is it more difficult because we have statistics, and support me on that, especially in the USA, which the UK is following and trying to get their own going. We have a statistic that there are more single fathers than married fathers. Found out that statistic, especially in the Black community. Wider, there are more single fathers. And how do these single fathers cope with fathering?
5 minutes.
Five minutes. Good. So what are the trends that have created all this, if we can look at that? So then when we now look at, so those are the patterns, and the flaws are what we look at and say that they harm cost to the child. With no balanced love, as Ola was saying, felt a form of hatred, jealousy, and imbalance. Couldn't connect either way. However, I want to talk about parental alienation and also the prevention of fathers being fathers by whatever spouse they have, by whatever way that's going in. It is not just the father's fault. What are the root causes? Why is this pattern continuing? We have to go back. To be a father, in most cases, and you have a son, there has to be some sort of relationship with a spouse. Or even if you don't have a spouse, if you have a partner, if you're in a same-sex relationship, to be a father, you take the persona of care. Now, and to bring the child up. But what is the prevention from that? There is a huge prevention for fathers being fathers, and that is usually thrown out onto the son, and there's a resentment that goes there. So that is passed on to the son because they have a problem, or they had a problem with the mom or with the partner, and they take it out of the child, teaching child against each other. Now we have to look at that so that we remove that sort of attitude and that sort of subconscious reaction, caution the parent that, look, don't do this because you're trying to get one back on spouse who might have left you, and you say she numbered me with the children. What a horrible thing. And just let me round up very quickly and say unhealthy fathering is not worse than unhealthy mothering and unhealthy parenting. It is just the gender I'm speaking about. How the gender relates itself to the person that they are parent. Thank you very much. Let me stop there. Am I within time, Ross?
You're perfect. It's just perfect. Thank you so much, Matthew. You know, we look at fathering and mothering, and you're absolutely right. Trying to separate the effects on the children, it's the effects are different between bad mothering, difficult mothering, and difficult fathering. However, the wounded child, nonetheless, needs to try to survive, and that is the major difficulty. We identify with this intergenerational problem. It happened centuries ago. It's been part of the human experience to be tough, and the whole understanding of masculinity as being one that does not have emotions. That is a major, major difficulty for all cultures all around the world. So thank you, Matthew. We will continue with this subject now. I must say that our next speaker, which was to be Sabrina Araben from Malaysia, she's experiencing food poisoning, which we all have gone through, and she's not comfortable being online with us today. So I'm going to take the opportunity to take just 5 minutes and try to cover some points that she was going to look at. Again, she was going to be the only female to try and balance out this male-heavy panel that we do have. And I was looking forward to that. But let me speak to her. It was going to be the effects of unhealthy transgenerational fathering on the boys? What are the effects on the boys? And I think Matthew, that we just heard, actually laid it out fairly clearly. One of the most difficult problems is when a father or a mother demands that the child not be a child. Don't feel. Now, to have feelings, to have emotions, that's part of being human. It is actually the most human part of us. It's native to who we are. One would call it soul. One would call it one's spirit, one's higher self, one's inner being, whatever that is. To say, don't feel, does not get rid of feelings. What it does is it suppresses the hurt and the shame and the disregarding and the guilt. It does not get rid of it. You don't think yourself through emotions. Once these get suppressed and you move those into adulthood, then that victim becomes the victimizer. That's how these things carry on. Yes, there are mindsets. There's ways of cultures that train us to think. But when a culture or a family structure for generations has trained us not to feel, that almost guarantees an unhealthy result in the boy child and in girl children also. So the effects on boys of this, well, let's take a look at what happens in a boy, and others will address this as we move through. To be a boy, there is something hardwired in the male being that says, I need an example. I need someone to follow. That's part of this hole that is supposed to be filled with either a man's as a father or a father figure. And if there is no such thing, the boy will find an example to follow. Often it can be a grandparent, it can be an uncle, it can be an older brother. But there's going to be someone, and if that someone does not materialize, they find the closest neighborhood person. And that could be a drug dealer. It could be someone who will take advantage of the child. The boy simply needs a role model. That something has to fill that space in the heart. This is why sports are so important. And last November, B-Man sponsored its first marathon, where boys could come together with fathers and figures. Now, may I just ask all of you to recheck and make sure you are muted. Someone is not, and we're getting a lot of noise in the background. But anyway, all that said, we're going to move forward with the understanding that this is an intergenerational problem. It's been passed on, and now the effects on boys can be lifetime of both emotional difficulties, causing family relationship difficulties, work problems, to single mother parenting, because the father is just gone trying to find himself. We probably won't talk about that as a phrase anymore. But it's what we're doing. I may look like I'm an older gentleman. Inside, there are parts of each one of us that are no more than, say, 5 or 6 years old, because that's when the original wound took place. We instantly can snap back. I know in one way or another, we are all there. So we will move on then to Michael Nisbet, my brother from New York City. And this one then is, there are physical problems, there are family problems, relationship problems, emotional problems. Mike, how do we reverse some of these effects? These patterns of fathers, how do we reverse them in the fathers? Before we address the boys, how do we deal with the fathers in this mix? Go ahead, Mike.
Greetings.
Quickly, and then away we go.
Greetings. I count it a privilege to be part of this incredible panel. My name is Mike Nisbet, and I'm speaking from the USA, and I'm part of the Real Dads Network, organization where we inspire men and we inspire dads, and we are changing the narratives of fathers that, it's just being said that, fathers are deadbeat, they're not there for their children, but we are actually showing that we have changed the narrative. Last week, we had a daddy-daughter dance where we had 133 participants. It was amazing as we saw dads come with their daughters, celebrate, have an awesome time. The fathers were color coordinated with their daughters, showing them how they should be treated. And we actually showcase that we are changing the narrative. And so we provide, how can we reverse the effect? We support the fathers. We actually give them a safe place where they can gather together to be empowered, to be affirmed, to fill that daddy wound. And we do it on a weekly basis where we meet virtually, and it's amazing the results that we're getting. When I was thinking of this topic of reversing and changing, in order to reverse something, we have to do something differently, right? So I don't want to spend a lot of time looking at what's wrong, but what do we need to do differently? And I think that's very key. So we already talked about the father wound. We have to identify that. But what I want to talk about for a minute is the man box. Society has created what's called a man box. I'm sure you've heard about that before. So the more aware we're of the man box, and just for those, let me just quickly talk about that. So the man box, we are expected to be strong, successful, powerful, dominating, fearless, in control, and motionless. And society has put us in that box, right? And if you get out of that box, show emotions, show tenderness, you're vulnerable, society tries to make it that you're not really a man. But now we're aware. For the full human experience, we have to experience our tenderness, our fears, our vulnerability. And we're giving men an opportunity and permission to express the full human experience. And we have to create environments where that's celebrated. And that's how we could reverse things. Also, we talk about the father wound and family trauma. That's something that was like shamed upon. You had to put on this front, everything is okay. No, everything is not okay. How can we support you? How can we fill in that void? And that's so key that we're giving each other permission to feel the trauma, to understand the trauma. So that's how we're changing, and we're changing the narrative, which I think it's so important. Growing up, I don't remember anyone encouraging me and talking about self-love. If you talked about loving yourself, you're being selfish, you're being arrogant. We are changing the conversation. We're getting a different vocabulary where we can say, yeah, love yourself, self-care. Those are words that I did not grow up with. I'm 66. I had a great dad, but we didn't talk about loving ourselves. And I think we're changing the narrative. We're having a different, we're reversing the effects on our boys by changing our conversation. And I think that's great. So we have to teach ourselves. And as we teach ourselves, we can teach the next generation to exercise self-compassion, self-respect, recognize their strengths, their weaknesses, recognize it. It's okay to recognize your weaknesses, right? Your faults, understand that you're human. Nobody is perfect. Take good care of yourself. Be aware that there's something called mental health issues, right? And I think it's so important that we have these conversations. And I think we can, we have 5 minutes, great. We can reverse the effects by being emotionally present. It's not enough that we're there, but emotionally present. And also realize that we are all fathers in some way or another. We're fathering the next generation, not just our biological children, but we can model compassion. We can model being emotional present so that we can be there. If I can take my last 3 minutes to show you a clip of an example of a father that was emotionally present, that you could see his heart was there for his son, I want to do that, all right? So you can just watch this. It's 3 minutes. You might be familiar with it, but it really just emphasizes how we can reverse the effects by modeling this behavior that you're going to see in this short clip. It's just 3 minutes. Just bear with me. Hi. Are we?
Soul so weak. When troubles come and my heart burdened be, and I am still and wait here in the silence till you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up, so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. Raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. brings me up.
So I just wanted to share that. I think it's just such a powerful example of a father being emotionally there, spiritually there, and letting his son know, let the next generation know that they have our shoulder, that we're going to finish this race together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Pardon me while I clear my throat, my nose, and my eyes after that. That was incredibly moving, and thank you very much for that. Yeah, so it is possible to begin reversing if we take different actions. So true, Mike. Absolutely. We're going to continue now with Dr. Desmond Rogers from Guyana in the northern part of South America. Dr. Rogers, welcome, and it's great to have you here. We're now dealing with, we're going to shift a little bit into the boys, the effects on the boys of this, but practical ways of creating this positive role model, practical ways of undoing the healthy mechanisms that preceded us, that we're all trying to understand and move forward with. There are such things as father-deprived homes. And the difficulty is, of course, that father-deprived homes doesn't mean that there's not a father there. But when the father doesn't know how to be a father, or is restricted by his own upbringing, then in effect, it's another sibling. It's not a father. So Dr. Desmond, if you'd introduce yourself for a few minutes and go ahead and share with us your insight. We look forward to this so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Ola, and to the B-Man team for hosting a great, incredible session today, and for the great work that you are doing. I am coming all the way from Georgetown, Guyana, and I've been working with boys and young men, with students over the last 40 years. And my last remit, as I worked with the International Fellowship of Evangelical Students, was to serve as regional director in the English, French, and Dutch Caribbean countries. I've since scaled back from that role, and I'm focusing now on working as a pastor with the For Gospel Church in Georgetown. And so I'm delighted to be here today. Indeed, the challenges for us to address the issues that face boys and men, and we're going to engage in some discussions that would follow from this presentation when the time comes, in terms of practical ways to promote positive and healthy fathering in boys from father-deprived households. And the presentations that had gone before served as a great connector to what I want to present to you today, because the father is the one from which the boy in many ways gets his identity. And that word father comes from a word that means pater, P-A-T-E-R, and pater is related to that word identity. And if you do a patent or a patent for an invention, all of that is related, because that patent becomes yours. You identify that patent identifies the owner, gives it identity. And so the father helps to give the boy the identity and the significance. The father is also a source of authority, and the X chromosomes that the boys carry from the father are really significant, because it helps to connect that boy to his father, not just in biological ways, in terms of chromosomes and all of that, but also in terms of social, spiritual, emotional, ways. And when that is missing, that presents a problem in society. Coming from a public policy background, there is always that question that the public policy person, whether that person is the promoter of the policy, is the consultant to the policy, or that person is someone who has a big stake in that policy and is driving that policy. The big question is, what is the social good that will result from this policy? What is the social good that this policy is attempting to address? And I think even today's discussion addresses some of that social good, because fathering, healthy fathering, positive and healthy fathering is a social good. And there are lots of fallouts when there is an absence of positive, healthy fathering. Some of them have been mentioned before. And father-deprived situations, or what is, and some people will call a paternal deficiency, because when there is a deprivation, there is definitely deficiency, there's a lack. And when there's a deficiency, there are fallouts. The father deficiency, paternal deficiency, father deprived situations could come about from physical situations like death, divorce, death of a father, divorce of the father from the mother, separation. Migration is another big issue too, because the father may have migrated and therefore have left the son in care of others. Maybe total abandonment of the father could have also taken place by total abandonment by the father, leaving the son, and without recognizing, without connecting, without any way in conversation and communication with that boy. And so those are some of the physical, situations. And then we have the emotional situations like nonverbal communication, present in the home, uninvolved, unattentive, and so on. And then we have in the Caribbean context, a lot of what is called a putative father situation, where this person, the boy knows, or it is gossiped in the community, that this person is my father, or this person is supposed to be my father. There are many situations where the boy meets his father for the first time in a grave, in a tomb, in a casket, and that creates all kinds of problems. And so fathers are there supposed to provide the guardrails in the lives of the boys through precept and practice. The absence of the father therefore needs to be addressed in different practical ways. For example, through the family, the extended family can come in, the grandparents, uncles, cousins, other male relatives. And so the family is encouraged to have family occasions and integrative experiences so the boy can connect with other positive males. In the school situation, teachers, many schools have mostly male teachers and female teachers in the Caribbean, but it could be an intentional way of addressing and redressing that situation by encouraging males to be more part of the teaching staff. Male-affirming pedagogical approaches need to take place, and of course, curriculum development. So informing the curriculum in outlining teaching strategies, male-affirming pedagogical approaches. How do you teach a boy? And boys learn differently in many ways from girls, and so it's important to have those. The business community can come in through entrepreneurship programs, training and development, can provide job attachment for boys and mentoring programs, because there's a symbiotic relationship between a healthy community, a business community, and the social community, and boys who are rooted and grounded and who are there being supported. And so the church could also come in with male-affirming teachings, mentoring programs, support programs, training and development, and adoptive relationships that could take place. Many in the church adopting boys as sons and so on. And then we have the state. The final one is the state. focus programs for boys and men, networking with various sectors. The state could sponsor programs, promote programs where boys and men connect through educational, vocational initiatives, training and development enterprises, mentoring initiatives, and of course, that networking of the different sectors, whether it's the social community sectors, where the financial sector, educational sector can all come together, where boys are mentored and supported in different ways. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are so many available resources that most of us have not taken the time to figure out. And when we are in the middle of a family crisis, there are those of us who need to be observant so that we can offer the help. We often don't. When you're in the middle of the hurricane, it's sometimes hard to reach out. And so it is for us to be available when necessary. Thank you very much. Very insightful. Before we move on, there is somebody who is online here that I want to introduce because of his response to being fatherless. You'll see his name as Mulyowa Stephen. Mulyowa Stephen, brother Stephen, we have bonded as absolute brothers. He is from Uganda. And brother Stephen was orphaned. We haven't talked about this part yet, but he was orphaned at age 12 when there were 8 other siblings. So at age 12, he was the father of the house. Both his parents were taken because of a health epidemic at the time in Uganda. And so I'm hoping that it's possible for all of us to do what he did. He accepted the challenge, learned how to take care of himself, his kids, his brothers and sisters through farming, through small animals. The community and the village was very sustaining. And now, as an adult, actually about the same age as you, Ola, in the early 40s, Stephen has begun several years ago something called Children's Voice Network to teach orphans and poor families and church congregations and schools where kids arrive hungry how to care for themselves. He himself has been a role model because of his upbringing. And I'm hoping all of us can do that. Use the challenges of our upbringing to spur us on to take the actions that are necessary. There are a lot of heroes that I would count as personal heroes to me as I get to know you all better. Ola is one of my heroes. Stephen, my brother in Uganda, absolutely my all-time hero. And now, Michael, you also, because I've seen you in action. So thank you. We will continue on, but I will just take this moment to suggest that if it's possible, at least for those of us who are participants, if you, Ola, I think we have each other's permission, please give us a listing of names and contact information. If anybody wants to opt out, which I doubt, but if you do, please let Ola know. But if you could supply us, because our remaining in contact is key to our moving forward. I'm certain of that. And I will do that as much as I possibly can in reaching out from here in Arizona. I'd like to move on now from Minister Yearwood, or Brother Nicholas, however you wish to be addressed. It's our honor to have you with us today. If you could turn your video back on, we would love to see you also as you are about to join us. Thank you very much. Once again, our topic now is really focusing on the boys and coping strategies for the boys who are living with unhealthy fathering and possibly even a lack of any fathering. What are some coping mechanisms that we can logically help our boys to deal with this? Brother Nicholas, go for it.
Good morning. Good morning, Ross. Good morning, participants. My name is Nicholas Yearwood. As I said before, I am a minister, and I have experience whereby I'm also the chairman for the Brigham Secondary School. I'm a member of the Men Beneath the Cross, and our focus is trying to mentor young men so they'll be able to be validated and accredited. We do believe that they need that. Now, with respect to coping strategies, I myself have been a product of an absentee father and always long for the validation of my father, like most young men. Research have indicated that 2/3 of the families in Guyana are led by females. Females cannot nurture and bring up, put structure in a young man, in young boys, so they will become the leaders of tomorrow. In fact, a research in America, a research was done, and they found that those families that are led by parents, 70% fall through the cracks. 70% of the children fall through the cracks. But when as a divorce, 9 men are fully in control of their children, 90% of the children realize their goals. So as a result of that, you know the importance of men. We always growing up here, and men are supposed to be the leaders of tomorrow. We grow up hearing that they are the spiritual priests of their home. They are fathers, they are husbands. What do we do? The government of Guyana had set up a system to look at the problem of street children. And after the research, they decided that, well, in order for them to be able to deal with the problem of street children, which are going through fatherlessness, they decided that they will create an institution and have them stay there. I visited the institution to do research. Beds are provided. They have 3 square meals per day. And they even have persons to go there to school them in numeracy and literacy. They set up a system also whereby persons who need to adopt a young boy should be able to come there. It failed miserably. Main reason why there is need, coping strategies we're talking about, there is need for counselors to be able to speak to these boys. Many of the boys escape during a particular time and they would go back onto the streets. Now, the system, it is good to ensure that you put systems in place to feed and to provide the materials necessary. But the child is still the young boy still need to be validated. He need to be loved, he need to be understood. And many of them came out from the cycle of poverty. And when you don't know who your father is, you suffer from an identity crisis. They need to know exactly who they are. Now, as a young man, I remember I always wanted the validation of my father. And when I didn't get that, I was very rebellious. God having that I was not imprisoned in any way or form. Wine, women, and song. When I became a husband to somebody, I did not know exactly how it is to be a husband, much less even moving into any fatherly role. Never know exactly what to treat because there was not an example before them. I go through my adolescent years and the persons who were able to tell me were elder boys. This whole question of being a father is very important. So we have street fathers who are connected to drug dealers and so on, stepping up to the plate and insist that the boys call them Papa. The boys need to be counseled. They need to be loved. Let me give you a simple example. A simple example. A friend of mine who was a former assistant chief education officer heard that a guy who was the leader of street gang in a particular school in question. He called the guy. When the boy guy come in the corner, the guy had his hair in a wild style. So he took out an Afro-chrome comb and he said, listen, you got to show me respect for yourself. And the boy allowed him to comb his hair. The guy, he said, by the way, where's your father? I don't know, be there. So when he started combing the guy cooled down. And he said, oh, look how you looking now. And the guy felt affirmed. He felt validated. And so there's a need for us to understand what is going on, because we need to affirm them. We need to validate it. This is everybody's business. In the community, we used to have something called the village fathers. I guess most of y'all heard about the adage, the old adage which says it takes a community, it takes a village to raise a child. It means that therefore we need to befriend them because we know exactly what it is. Some of them look at their past and they hope they want one day for this big man that is in his garden to speak to them about life. He seemed to have his family about. We need to ensure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we need to ensure that we are there to be able to speak into their lives. Stop them and chat and ask them, how are things going? They want somebody to talk to. Because if we don't speak to them, other persons will speak to them and have them involved in drug trafficking, have them involved in the criminal enterprise of these so-called people who they call Papa. We have places in Guyana whereby the drug man is in charge. And of course, a lot of young boys are drawn to them. We have people, they even have systems in schools where they're asked to go there while at school and sell marijuana cakes. So we have to ensure, with respect to coping, we need to show empathy. Now, boys with unhealthy fathers are crying out to be understood. There is nothing people want more than to feel that someone fully understands them. And as a counselor, you may not have a solution to the situation, but the very act of being understood is to know that people care of another significant person. Without truly understanding the pain of isolation can be intolerable. There's something intensely disturbing about feeling misunderstood or alone in a situation. It's only accentuate the agony of the already wounded heart. As counselors, indeed, as members of the church and other places, it is our responsibility to work towards deep understanding. To understand is to empathize, and to empathize is to step inside the hurting person's inner world to get a feeling for what his world is like and to look at the outer world through his or her eyes. It is only then we'll be able to understand. Once we're able to empathize and be able to understand, we'll have be able to tailor-made strategies so that that boy will be able to become the man he ought to be. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your insights and your enthusiasm for the subject are infectious, to say the very least. And the same is true for everyone that has spoken so far. All of us have been affected by this. And you mentioned anger, this upset that without the father, there is no role model. It is very damaging to society, much less the child himself, not knowing where to go, what to fall back on, where is the stability that fatherhood is supposed to provide me. I now feel like I'm worthless. I don't deserve it. And those kind of emotions that you speak of are common to all of us. None of our cultures have really addressed this. And it requires us individually to reach out and become the fathers, become the role models for those who desperately need that now, and to teach a whole new way of looking at this. So Brother Nicholas Dearwood, thank you so much, Pastor. We really appreciate your deep knowledge of the subject and the programs you're working with there in Guyana to undo this generational problem.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Now we get to our closing speaker, and then we will follow up with question and answer, and we will be able to take questions and answers both from the panel and those of you who are online. We're so grateful that you're here. We will have Mike Nesbitt is our co-host, and with Ishmael also as our tech man, we'll be able to channel the questions. And those of you who have been sharing in the chat, thank you for doing that and leaving some contact information for those of you who are not on the panel. We appreciate that so much. It would be wonderful, for instance, if Pastor Keith, who's now in Kenya, can contact Stephen Mulyowa, who's just one country over in Uganda, and begin these international connections now so that our individual programs can grow exponentially. This is what's necessary now. So thank you so very much. Listen, I'm now going to move on to our final actual speaker, and that is Dr. Kantata. Dr. Kantata is from Tanzania. He's probably best known because he's here because he's been on programs with Ola in the past. We appreciate his work and his contributions, but now we really get to the bottom line of it. We've identified there are fathers who don't know how to be fathers, and some of them just simply leave. And so that the sons then have no role models. We have talked about the patterns, the intergenerational patterns that have helped create this, but have not helped solve it. We've looked at programs such as Mike Nesbitt's in New York, where fathers are given a new language, a new set of terms, a way of re-looking at things to create a new dialogue for both fathers and their sons to realize that they're not fully trapped if they will simply reach out and take the hand that is extended to them. And we haven't gotten into the whole thing of forgiveness, reconciliation, and all of that, I believe, is probably something we might be about to hear in the healing process as it relates to the boys, those who have, which really ends up being all the male children that are on this call right now. We all have those wounds, and to one degree or another, have tried to heal them, sometimes alone, sometimes with others. In any case, it's our opportunity to move forward no matter how old we are. And I think I'm the grand old papa, maybe the baba of this entire group being 76. We have all experienced much, but where is the healing for boys from unhealthy fathering? What can we do? Dr. Kantata, if you would please make sure you're unmuted, move forward and speak to us. Enjoy giving us a bit of background. And let's see, are you with us?
Yeah, so thank you very much, my brother Fox, for moderating these sessions. And I really appreciate the contribution for the previous speakers on the discussion which is going on. So my name is Dr. Katanta. I come from Tanzania. I work as a senior program technical advisor currently within gender health. And I have a background of working on men as partner program for almost like 20 years now. But currently also I'm working in the community with a platform called Tanzania Boys and Men Ambassadors, where we are providing a platform for discussions on issues around masculinity and things around that as well. And I'm also providing some support to the ministry and the government and the faith-based organizations when it comes to the agenda of male involvement in the country. So that's a brief of what I'm doing currently. I'm the recipient of GBV award in the country from UN Women and UNFPA Tanzania. But at the same time, last year also I received an award for child protection work which I'm doing in the talking about the boys, especially when we talk about the boys, the things which are happening in their lives. Recently, we've been talking with young people in schools and asking them about the experience of being a boy. And if you hear from them, it's a sad stories. They are talking about the ways they've been shamed, the ways they've been asked to act in one way to another, the way they are not getting support from the community and things like that. So I think it's very important. Sorry, my dog is barking. I don't know what is happening. I think what is important right now is to ensure we are coming with program which will support the healing of the boy and activities which we are supposed to, innovations which we are supposed to invest in as the communities or as organizations, as a government. For example, we know young people from their experience through the socialization process, sometimes they felt they're unloved. Sometimes they felt they don't have the safe space where they can go and get some support when they need. And most of the time they end being shamed out, sometimes having threatening experience, which are giving them a really, really very bad experience. So what we need to do, first of all, as an organization, as a community, we need first to make sure that these young people, they are told that what they've been experiencing is not their fault. But still, there is a way to go from what went through that. For example, creating safe spaces. What the BMAN they are doing, like what the Tanzanian boys they are doing in our country, those are kind of safe spaces which are helping young people at the end of the day to get is to act in a way not allowed to telling them that okay, feeling you can express it.
Dr. Contanta, let me interrupt you for just a few moments. We're having great difficulty hearing you. The sound is breaking up and your picture has frozen. So I might suggest that when that happens, the easiest thing to do is to quickly log off and then log back in to reset the system. We want to be able to hear exactly what you have to say. So may I remind the rest of you, please, to please mute yourself when you come on. Okay, Dr. Contanta, we see you again.
Are you hearing me well now?
Now we're hearing you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You might want to back up and continue from about 2 or 3 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. So we need to we need to ensure that these young people who have bad experience from toxic fathers, from being raised with fathers, which at the end of the day, we define that as unhealthy fathering. One of the things we need to tell them that it was not their fault, but at the same time, we need to tell them that there is no long way. It was not their fault, but we need to ensure that we are creating a good space for them so that they move forward from a boyhood to adulthood we see a clear support from the community. But at the same time, to have a place where they can just go and get what they need at the end of the day as a boy. You know, young men, boys, they have their specific needs, which sometimes they wished to get it to here or to get it from their parent, especially the father. But because of the toxic nature of the father, they did not get that kind of space to get that one. That's why we're really recommending to have programs like BIMAN, what is doing, like what Tanzania Boys and Men Ambassador, they are doing, like what is happening in Uganda. And this as a networks which are bringing about the men and telling them this is the way to do. And it's the right time now to start to break the silence. So one of the key things is like they need to break the silence. When they are feeling like they need support, they need to ask, they need to go and look for it. And as a community, we need also to create spaces whereby young boys, when they feel like they need such kind of support or they need to go and express their needs, they should know where exactly to get that kind of support. So this will include such kind of training so that we strengthen their knowledge and the skills, but at the same time to create a peer environment where they have the peer support from others. So we create a pool of role models in the community, like you folks, like Aura, like others which are doing in the community, so that they know and go there and get the service. But we should also be able to link them with other institutions in the communities, which are really talking about the positive masculinities. For example, I was very happy to see among the speakers, we have religious leaders. The first leaders, they have a key role in transforming, especially in addressing the toxic norm, the toxic norms, especially those ones which are expressed by community. That's the way of male norms, which eventually we classify them as the toxic male masculinities. So those are the kind of the way we need to tell the boys. So the other thing which we need to keep into consideration, we need to have a clear boundaries to tell them these are the things which are supposed to be doing and these are not the things they are supposed not to be doing. And to be a little man, it doesn't mean to do A, B, C, and C, because this one will cause them to create more problem in future or current. But also at the same time is to have interactions with environment which does not elicit or make them to remember the past experience, especially the bad experience which they have. So by saying so, during the process of healing, during the process of healing, we need to make sure that we separate them from the stressors or from those bad experiences which they've seen, which have created them from that kind of situation. But the other thing we need to tell young boys and on the issue around the self-care, we need to tell them they need to love themselves. We need to tell them they need to drop some of the issues which they're experiencing, which they've learned, or they're experiencing through the socialization process, so that they build that positive way of looking things, but at the same time to ensure that emotional development, the cognitive development of them, now they are looking at it a positive way and preparing them to become better fathers for the future. And then at the end of the day, to participate meaningfully, especially, for example, when we talk about the issue of inequalities, we need to tell boys that they have a role of addressing the inequalities which are happening in the communities, which are happening in the family, by participating, by taking different roles. They can participate, they can take a role as a partner, they can take a role as agent of change, they can take a role as a client at the same time themselves, because there are some of the issues which are directly related to them. So by embracing all of that, all of those spheres, will ensure at the end of the day, the boys, they are staying very safe. So to wind up, we need to tell the young boys during the process of healing that we love them. We need to spare time, quality time as a community, as a fathers, as a role models in the community, about and telling them the positive way and how they are supposed to be at the end of the day, including to ask them to express their emotions when they face some challenges. But at the same time, we need to work them through the life course by working with them in the community, doing some stuffs which promote positive masculinity and ensuring we are not living bad experience to other people, and telling them even if they have bad experience, but still there is still a hope of living a better life. And in the community, there are people who have positive attitude and they can embrace them by providing the safe space for them. But lastly, which is very important also, they need to be touched very well. They need to be touched very well emotionally and physically by telling them that they can do it, they are lovable, they have all skills, and they have special space in the community. And that's what they can do to ensure that at the end of the day, we are living in a safe environment. And we can live in a free violence environment by taking some actions. So I think it's very important to involve different key stakeholders during the process of the healing process of a young boy who have been raised in a community where the fathers was not a good father, and then at the end of the day, he left a very bad experience to such kind of a boy. Thank you. I think that is my contribution for now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cantanta. Excellent, excellent. And we're so grateful that you had another way of communicating with us. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we have now taken. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. A word of thanks to all the participants, but we have not stopped yet. We have another participant that's going to be coming in after our short Q&A session, who is from South Africa, and he himself is a teenager that we will meet. His name is, if I'm pronouncing it right, Msedisi Kule Mambane, and he will give us our closing remarks. And I think it's important that we hear this from a young man who has gone through these difficulties a lot more recently than some of us who are a little longer in the tooth. So that said, I'm going to open this up to questions, and these questions would be the easiest way is, and Mike, if you could put it on gallery view so you can see all of us. You are now host at this point. I don't know if Ola is back yet. Oh yes, there you are, Ola, I see you. However, anyone who would like to ask a question, either down under reactions at the bottom of your screen, you can push that button and raise your hand, or simply unmute yourself, and hopefully not too many people will talk all at the same time, but unmute yourself and say that you identify yourself and you have a question. We invite you now to ask questions. And if you want to identify a particular participant, fine. If you want to just ask a particular question and we open it to the panel, whoever feels inspired to go ahead and answer it. So are there any questions that anyone would like to ask our panel?
I'll go. I'll start it off. I'll be the icebreaker.
Thank you so much.
I know we have the theme that it takes a village to raise a child, but I also believe, because Uncle Mike and our group, we was watching a video that it takes a village to raise an adult. So I do believe it takes a village to raise a father. So in that mindset, what are the things we can do collectively to raise fathers who don't have the proper tools? Because the one thing you brought to the group, Mr. Fox, is when you have a father that has a hole in the heart. So as a community, how can we fill that heart, fill his heart to be that nurturer, that person for their son?
That's a great question. Who wants to take that on?
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Matthew Gonzalez speaking, yes. And looking at the question saying, how do we actually address the father-wounded fathers, right? And how does a community raise fathers? Now, there is one area, let me just contribute very quickly. There's one area to answer the question. There's one area that we tend to miss, which is quite a very crucial area as well, when we're talking about fathers and boys. There is a deliberate parental alienation and parental prevention, preventing fathers from actually being fathers to their sons and to their children. Now, there are a lot of programs about focusing on the child and focusing on the man and the middle woman. Very brilliant, excellent. I am hoping some of our great speakers, great leaders, and great initiators here, they actually focus on the program on speaking to mothers about the need or the understanding of a father wound, the need to put differences apart so that a father can be a father, to stop this generation cycle of, by the time my father was never there, so I don't know how I can relate to a son, or this is what I have known all the time. Our mothers, sisters, spouses, friends are crucial to this development. And when they come in and we speak to them, say that, look, all the father wants is a relationship with the child. Never mind your differences. I don't know about the community we speak about in the Caribbean and in Africa, but largely in the UK and the United States of America, correct me if I'm wrong, there is a breakdown in this community think, apart from the church. And even there I say it, I'm not saying any particular church, even the church, there is some form of parental alienation and prevention that is, if not encouraged, largely ignored. Now, when we look at that and saying that, let us have a session speaking to the mother state and say, you are creating this wound because you have a wound in yourself. We are not telling you to continue to be in any toxic relationship. Think about the children. Think about you are actually depriving that child of having a father connection. Not only are you doing that, you are creating or deepening that father wound, because that continues with the father into if it's to have other children, or when he actually sees his child and he has missed that bond, that connection. Love to. If anybody wants to work, and I'd love to see programs of that led by fathers, led by men. Hey, let us have this. Come and discuss. What is your grievance? Why do you think you have sole responsibility that because it's your child as a mother or as a woman, that you can be the father and the mother? Basically, nature tells you that you cannot. We have to address it. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your words, and it's so true that it is a partnership, this thing called a family. And we can address the father wound, we can address the wound that it leaves in the boys, and the boy child, which we call the father also. But that partnership of mother and father, that is the key sometimes to that we sometimes forget the vital role of mothers in helping to create the environment where fathers can heal themselves. It is a partnership. Very key understanding, very key.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
May I attempt this question, please?
Yes, go for it, Mike.
I do believe.
Okay. Yeah, Nicholas, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brother Nicholas.
I do believe that there must be a deliberate intervention. What we find, particularly in Guyana and maybe even the Caribbean countries, within the government department, you have many different sections in social service that deal with women issues and children issues, and none with regards to men. I don't know exactly if it started, but there's need to have people to be able to speak to the lives of men. There are many seminars that need to be held with respect to fathers or potential fathers, right? You see, that a man that I can remember, and he's there now. I think his name is Tornil Nelson. He said many times persons asked about praying for their children from the womb to the tomb. But he said that he believed that you should pray for the child from the erection to the resurrection. And it is very important for you to ensure that as a wounded father, that you'll be able to seek help. Because how can I become a father if I'm already wounded and don't know exactly what to do? So there must be a deliberate intervention. I think also if there's a need for the ministry to formulate policies, they must include pastors and so forth, those persons that will be able to look after the spiritual aspect. The world seems to have the material aspect nailed down, but there is the spiritual aspect in which we need to look at. People have low self-esteem. You know, they feel that they are a failure. They can't speak into the lives of children. They need to know that God, who is the Father of all fathers, is able to let them know exactly how to teach and how to be able to become a father. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That specific intervention, we are really blessed today because organizations such as Real Dads in New York, B-Man in Nigeria, Children's Voice Network in Uganda, there are organizations that have begun to become these resources, to be, as when invited, to be those interventions. And it is critical that it's a full community. That does include both the state, family, and the spiritual necessity of the church or whatever spiritual resources are available within the community. I do want to just also make one quick mention to what Matthew Gonzalo was saying, and that in the UK and in the United States, we are very much affected by the total breakdown of family, because we all do feel completely isolated. We are by ourselves. Our family is by ourselves. This social structure where we hold one another in community has been becoming less and less effective in our societies. So one has a tendency to look at impoverished nations and say, oh, I wish there was something that could be done about that. Well, we need to, those of us who are in nations which on the outside look like we're not impoverished, we are impoverished in soul, impoverished in family, and impoverished by knowing what it is to be a man, a woman, a father, a mother, how to be a family. This used to be something that was taken care of by a community caring for its participants, a village, if you will. That has broke down. And the UK and the US are no strangers to these problems that we're dealing with right now today. I'd like to entertain maybe just one other question, but we then do need to wrap this up. We definitely want to hear the closing remarks from Mensadisi Mambane from South Africa. But is there one other quick question, if there is such a thing on a subject like this, that we can?
Ross, I think Uncle Mike wanted to say something. I know he.
Oh yes, Mike. Let's thank you, Ishmael.
Thank you. I'll keep it very brief. I want to thank Brother Matthew for his point about the mother's role. And I think we cannot help but acknowledge that society has strategically fought against breaking up the family. And, you know, this whole woman rights, you're just as important as a father, you don't need a man. And they have dropped these seeds, sometimes very subtle and sometimes very blatantly, into the mind of women. And we have to counterattack that. I also want to say is that, yeah, that spiritual component is so important. Part of my ministry is to come alongside young men, and work with them one-on-one. And something I found in a conversation even yesterday, I've seen it over and over again. How can I even identify with my Heavenly Father if I have very destructive and very negative view of a father? So therefore, we as ministers have to come in there and to show them as a human, here is love, here is understanding. Because when you say, oh, your Heavenly Father, they're like, Father, I don't want to hear about a father. But when we can give them the compassion, the love, the space, the affirmation as a human, then they can say, where does that come from? Then we could direct them to their Heavenly Father. So something we have to pray about, something that we need wisdom on, but it is very complicated, but it's definitely doable. And I have a lot of hope. And Ola, I want to thank you for this opportunity. This has been an incredible conversation. And I've learned so much just by being here. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And we will turn it over to Ola after we hear from our last participant. I count it a real blessing to have someone like Mendedisi to be with us today. Is it possible for you to, well, there you are, good. Make sure you unmic yourself or unmute yourself. You're still muted.
Love you, son.
There you are. All right. Listen, thank you all. And now, if you would please be so kind to give us our closing remarks and what should we have learned from you and your standpoint? How have you enjoyed today? What have you learned?
Let me say thank you to the audience for attending. Thank you to Mr. Ola Akinwe for this session. It's a very helpful session. My responsibility is to summarize the main points that were spoken by each speaker. So Mr. Matthew highlighted that when the unhealthy fathering patterns that we have is when fathers think that hugging is for the girl child and not for the boy child. And another unhealthy pattern that he mentioned is fathers thinking that their boy child must not show emotions, which is very, very wrong, because crying is part of human nature. Mr. Sabrina, under the effects of unhealthy transgenerational fathering on boys, highlighted that one of the effects is dysfunctional relationships, work problems, and emotional problems. Mr. Michael, under the topic which is reversing the effects of unhealthy transgenerational patterns of fathering on fatherhood, said that to reverse some things, we need to do something differently. What do we have to do differently? We have to be emotionally present. What does it mean to be emotionally present? It means being aware of and able to recognize your emotions and the emotions of others. Mr. Desmond, under the topic which says practical ways to promote positive health and healthy fathering in boys from fatherhood deprived households, said that the practical ways that we have to implement is entrepreneurship. What do we have to do in entrepreneurship? We have to provide jobs for boys. And he also spoke about the church, that the church must initiate male teachings, which are going to be helpful, and they must also talk about adoptive relationships. Minister Nicholas Yearwood, under the topic of coping strategies for boys with unhealthy fathering, said that one of the coping strategies can be finding a strong mentor or a role model in the boy child's life, such as a coach or teacher who can provide guidance and support. Dr. Cantanta, who was our last speaker under the topic which says healing boys from unhealthy fathering, said that what we have to do is that communities must have safe spaces. He also said boys must be taught about self-care. Boys must be encouraged to break the silence. Boys must be linked with other institutions that will help them, to stop toxic masculinity. He also spoke about creating boundaries where we tell boys what to do and what not to do. It is important to break unhealthy cycles of fatherhood for a number of reasons. It can protect children from suffering the same childhood trauma that the father experienced. It can create a better environment for children to grow in with a healthy parenting and a supportive father figure. It can help create better relationship between fathers and their children, allowing for a strong bond and a better understanding between them. My audience, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It is good that a group of compassionate men have gathered on this platform for a good intention to stand in the gap and demonstrate love, unconditional love, by being mentors, father figures to the fatherless. That includes orphans, those with absent fathers who are alive. Isaiah 1 verse 17 says, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. Thank you to everyone who participated on this session. Thank you for sacrificing your time to share your views and valuable solutions. Let us continue to take action on the topics that were discussed and create a better world. God bless you all.
Mensadisi, thank you so very much. Bravo. There could not be better words to close this meeting. And as I look at you and I hear your inspiring words, and as I thank you, I'm reminded of a phrase that Ola spoke, and it's printed someplace on the website. And that is this: not only do boys need to know what to do and what to become, and I'm paraphrasing, boys need to know what not to do and what not to become. This is what we call the hero's journey. And if you choose to take on that journey, it is the greatest challenge. And at the end of it, it is also the greatest satisfaction. So I encourage you, all of us, and anyone who hears this as a recording, to be a part of the solution by being open, by being willing. Find the resources and become an active member of your village, your society, your family, and help our boy children and our girl children to become adults that do not pass on anything except the most healthy of relationships. I thank you all for your time, your sacrifice, your all being here and sticking with us. I turn it now over with great gratitude to our mentor and humanitarian guru, Ola Akinwe.
My Baba. I call it, thank you so much, Baba. That was an excellent moderating work you have done for us today. And Dr. Desmond Rogers, powerful. We need to bring you back on this issue of fathering, fatherhood, and the patterns. We need more of what you got there, and Minister Nicholas too. This is going to be a huge work in Guyana and all over the world. I can see the trends and the similarity from all our discussion that if we don't take action, a whole lot might happen to our boys. And let me introduce Mensidi Mbani, how he got to become my mentee. I recently met Mensidi. I woke up on the 17th of February, 2023, to a message on my WhatsApp, say, hello, how do I get mentorship as a boy? From nowhere. Just in the morning, that was the first message I got. And I said, oh, we are happy to help you with mentoring support. But can you tell me about yourself, your parents, your siblings, and your community? That was just about a few days. He told me everything I need. That he's a student majoring in qualities and public management and governance at the University of Johannesburg, and it's 19. His father passed away years ago. And he said something shocking to me that made me brought him on this panel. That which refers to what Matthew Gonzalez said, that while his father was alive, he grew up with his single mom. And his single mom did not give him much time to relate to his father. But his father always said so much good things about him. And when his father passed, those were those good words that the father said about him that is keeping him to grow now as a young man. So we had long interactions, and I did make promise. I'm going to introduce you to a platform of fathers. It is not going to be my job alone to continue to guide Mensidi to be that great man he has set out to be. So to Uncle Mike, to Dr. Desmond Rogers, to Minister Nicholas Yearwood, to Dr. Cantata, and all to all the great men on this platform. We have a boy we have listened, a young man, who needs our support, who needs our guidance. For me, I'm committed to him, like my dad, Mike Nisbet, my Baba, Joseph Foss, have been committed to me, my growth. So it's a joyful thing that I'm introducing this young man to us. And I believe that the universe, the source, the Almighty God, will keep your path. And you have all of us to support you in City. You know, everybody you see here, they are ready to support you. You have fathers in us. Trust us. You have fathers in us. And having said that, I want to thank everyone that participated in today's event. This is very, very successful. But it couldn't have been successful without you. So in 1 minute thereabouts for the speakers, maybe you can say, give us one minute of your closing remark, and we say thanks to the universe for the opportunity for us to meet today. So starting, I'll start with Dr. Desmond Rogers. Your 1 minute goes to Uncle Mike, Dr. Cantata, and my Baba is going to give us his own 1 minute too, and we'll call it a day if we don't have anybody who wants to ask anything.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you, Ola, for the invitation, for being here. And it is really a tremendous time. And what an example that you concluded there with, the way that you've just mentored and committed us to helping you mentor that young man. I'm thinking of a number of research projects right there in Africa, where young elephants have been misbehaving, becoming violent towards each other and even non-elephant objects. And that's because the older elephants, the fathers were taken out of the environment and sent elsewhere. And when the researchers studied it, they realized that a lot of this is because of the absence of the fathers, and they brought back these fathers, older elephants, and immediately there was a reversal of that negative behavior by these younger elephants, because the fathers were able to bring formation and structure and all of that too. So there is definitely a need for intergenerational connection of fathers and sons, and takes really efforts like yours and others who would have spoken that this is really a definite way to go. So thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless you on your work.
Thank you, sir.
Mike?
Uncle Mike?
Thank you. Thank you. I just can't thank you enough for this opportunity. I was looking in St. Luke 22:23, where Jesus tells Peter when he's converted to strengthen his brethren. And I take it as that as we heal ourselves as older men, we can support the next generation. So we need to continue to create safe places where we can heal, where we can grow, where we can learn, so that we can reach out to the next generation, and we can come out of the stand and reach out to our Derek Redmond. For many of our young men are on the field, on the track field, that's limping and hurt, and we could let them put their arms around us so that they can reach their goals. Ola, thank you. God bless you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. My Baba.
Well, I thought it was Dr. Desmond Rogers' turn, but let's go for it. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be with all of you and to count you as my literal brothers here in every possible way you can think that through. But we are joined as one when we deal with fathering and the effects of good fathering, the effects of excellent mothering on all of the children in a family. That we have concentrated on men and boys is specifically key, since most of our cultures do tend to put fathers as the responsible one, the responsible for the future of the whole society, not just in the home. But it's in the home where all success will lead to creating a society that is healthy and promulgates excellent children, and helps to create an environment where fathers are no longer causing these wounds because they themselves don't have them. So this will take many generations as we move forward. But you have all been so good in starting this. Thank you so much for your influence in the world. It's been my honor to be here. And yeah, I am, in fact, the father of Ola Akinwe, just as Michael is.
Thank you.
And so many others.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Next.
Mr. Yewood, Nicholas, you have your final words for us before we call it a day.
Okay, well, there's a need. There is a need for spiritual fathers in our society, in our work environment, wherever is our sphere of influence, even at wherever we go, even within the church setting. And it's important. That's a responsibility for each and every single one of us. The Men Beneath the Cross has a direct role to play, and we have been playing that role. Even on international, we minister to boys on an international level. And so we have to ensure that we go about our business with diligence and with integrity. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, everyone that have joined this discussion. Dr. Cantata, okay. Your last minute words so that we say, how do we say goodbye in Tanzania?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Brother Ola. I really appreciate, and I've been learning a lot participating in such kind of platform. You know, it is providing also a place where we are sharing the experiencing. And I was really happy to hear the discussion which was going on from my colleague, even the guidance we are getting from our Baba, Mzee Fox. I really appreciate. And, you know, this kind of platform is a form of mentoring. And, you know, the way we get contacted each other last year when I saw in the social media about the boy, the International Day of a Boy Child, have to just to come into the social media and search, and they get through you. And I've learned a lot. I have a passion. You know, I've worked almost 15 years as the Men's Partner Program Officer. Now, I think I need to ensure I create a platform in the country where young boys, men, they start the discussion about the fatherhood and things around that one. So looking forward also to get the contact and the guidance and the mentoring from Mr. Fox, Prince Nicholas, Desmond, and my colleague, so that I learn more and I eventually I formalize a network which is really working in the country. Thank you very much and stay well.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Cantata. Like I always tell you, we're here to support each other. B-Man is coming to Tanzania. I've already made a promise to you, and we'll do a nice work with you over there. The beauty of it is that we have lived a life that the next generation can take over from where we stop and begin to mentor those that are coming in. So it's somebody put it this way, the greatest challenge of our civilization is whether or not we'll be able to cultivate these young men to be great fathers in their generation. That's the greatest challenge we have as men in our civilization today. And they are confronted with a lot of distractions, negative distractions all over the world. So we have to stand together and ensure that in our various communities, villages, countries, that we bring that positive distractions that can help our boys to grow, to love, inspire, value, and educate other people in their communities. This is our task. This is our greatest task. And it's a huge one. Because today our boys are way, way behind. They are challenged with identity crisis. They are way, way behind in literacy. So, and the society is not really opening up opportunity that bring them together, embrace them to be this man we want them to be. But having you to discuss this, we are so grateful. We appreciate you. In fact, I don't want to let you go. Dr. Desmond, I don't want you to go. Minister Yearwood, I feel we should just stay together. My Baba, Uncle Mike, my brother Ishmael, thank you so very much. You've been so wonderful since we got to know about this project. You've been on the forefront to make this happen. Living, work, commuting between work, and to make yourself available. I am very, very grateful. So please, to reach us at B-Man, you can always reach me on plus. I'm putting my phone number here, +234 802 301 4608. And you can get to meet me at olaakile at gmail.com. And our website is www.bmenadvocacy.org. This year, we have a lot to stop. And one of the major events we are holding this year is called the FAST Festival. And we want to hold this across the continent. What is FAST Festival? FAST Festival is Father and Son Together Festival. It's going to be great in Guyana. It's going to be great in America. It's going to be great in Tanzania. We are coming. Dr. Desmond, Mr. Nicholas here will get ready for us. We're going to bring all the boys and their fathers in your country to a 2-night event where you want to see that the father elephant is back among the young elephant, and now to restore structure and order into their. That is the goal. That is the purpose. This year, we want your support to make this a reality. And I say, God bless you. Thank you so very much. I love you all, and I hope to see you in less than a month. I will send mail to you and invite you to the next event. And if time permits you, please also join. This is an ongoing monthly event. Having said that, peace and blessing be upon everyone.
Thank you, Ola. Ola, can I just say something just before you go?
Yes, sir.
All right. First of all, it's amazing just how God works all things out. I'm just sitting here thinking that I, first of all, would like to pay credit to the Men Beneath the Cross in Jamaica, because the first time I got connected is when they invited me to do a presentation, and some of the folks there know me and made a recommendation, and Sister Edna reached out to me and they warmly received me. Then the next thing I know is that I'm receiving through their network, and I want to commend them for the work that they're doing, Men Beneath the Cross, to be a part of this. And now I'm listening and I'm seeing on this meeting some friends who've always carried this passion. Beverly Reynolds, Glennis James, Beverly is in Jamaica now, but she worked across the Caribbean. Glennis worked, both of them worked in the UN and CARICOM kind of network. So they are international public servants, so to speak. But their passion has always been for men, for boys. And now I'm hearing you speaking of fast. And I'll tell you, from 2020, since the pandemic started, I have 3 sons. And every Thursday, we committed, when we could have done nothing else during the pandemic and all of that. Every Thursday, we set aside what we call fast, F-A-S-T. You know what it is? Father and son's time. So I was so, I mean, my wife doesn't cook on that day. We order in food, or one of us will prepare a meal, and we just have a time together, me and my boys. Now that the pandemic is over, I mean, they go back to their busy schedules of work and studying and all of that. But we still try to maintain that time as much as possible. We talk about issues, and we talk about what's happening in the family, what's happening in our own lives, what's happening in the politics of the country. We watch a movie, do sports, do something. And so when I hear you say that, I'm saying, wow. This is just the networking of the people and the ways that God is just putting things together and people together. And so, my brother, you are going to be, as much as we're going to come to Africa and to North America and to Europe, you're going to be in the Caribbean and Africa, I mean in Europe and in North America and all of that too. South America, because we're part of South America as well. There's a global, you have a global message, there's a global need, there's a global message, and guess what? This platform and the other platforms connected to this could be a global voice to address that global need and bring that global message. So I would just so blessed by what you shared, just affirming this. So thank you,
Yes.
thank you, thank you.
You pumping me now. I received that. You see, Dr. Desmond, to be honest with you, this has been well planned. In fact, Uncle Mike will say a little bit about it. My Baba is, the three of us, we laid out, we just working to start in a region. It could be in your region, it could be in Europe, it could be in, but we are set. And the time is right. Dr. Desmond, please, would you please leave your phone numbers on the chat so I can reach you and your email address with this information. We will plan this together. You're going to be one of our global lead in this, let me say, project, because God has started that in your home. Now we want to make it global. And he has raised me to make this, he has started in your house a global need. And now we are set. So everything is ready. I do have Minister Nicholas in the group too. So we are building this as a global men working on this initiative, and we'll take it across the continent. So I say thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Uncle Mike, you want to say something because you are part of the FAST initiative when we started? So with that being said, I'm super glad. Can everyone who is on this platform, can you just please just let us have your video on, and we just wish ourselves bye-bye for like maybe 1 or 2. If you have your video, please on your videos. Let's see your face. We want to say hello and close this event together. Please, wherever you are, can you please, let's have our video for 1 minute. Thank you, and thank you, thank you, and thank you, and thank you, and thank you, and thank you. I'm saying thank you. Thank you for reaching out. Mike Kozi, thank you. You are Stephen, thank you. Nevi Robson, I appreciate you. Salim Budi, what a day, I appreciate you. My brother, I appreciate you. Jennifer, I appreciate you. Brother Douglas, wow, thank you so much for joining from Trinidad and Tobago. I appreciate you too. I appreciate you. Thank you very, very much. Yeah. So one of the things that bring us together in Lima is to understand our philosophy and our creed. The creed I share with the boys is LIVE. How do you live? You love for the L, you inspire for the I. So thank you so much for being part of this movement, and I love you so much. And I want us to say this together. I am somebody. You can mute yourself and say this together as we close. I am somebody. I am powerful. I am strong. I am making a difference. So let's make this difference together. And let's be the father to our young boys. God bless you and blessing you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm proud of my cousin, Dr. Desmond Rogers.
Hey, love you. Thank you, Yvette. Thank you. Thank you
for joining us.
Yeah. All the way in Canada. Thank you, Yvette.
Jeremy Lambert, thank you for joining us. Canada, please leave your details in the chat. We're going to reach out to you. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Bless you all.
Oh, Brent Maxwell, Dad, thank you for coming back. We say thank you. We love you. We love you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Sir, what do you have for us today? Do you have a message for us? Your input. We'd love to have one word from you, sir. Brent Maxwell, yes. Where are you joining us from, sir? I probably think you couldn't. Okay. Okay, so thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.